Here on All Mixed Up at 105.5 WDHA. I'm Jim Monaghan. And my guest actually, well, he was on last Sunday morning briefly. I played a little snippet of something that he had done, and I wanted to bring him on because there's a couple of topics I want to talk about. Chris Cron, good morning and welcome to WDHA in New Jersey.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're based in Nashville, Tennessee these days. How long have you been there?
I am about 10 years.
And
Actually,
where were
just a
you
little
before
over.
then?
I grew up in Southern California, Orange County, just
Thus,
in the shadow of the Matterhorn at Disneyland.
and thus all of the Beach Boys influences that I hear in your music, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I grew up listening to K Earth 101, the oldies station, and every other song was a Beach Boys song.
Well, speaking of the Beach Boys, the first time I became aware of you was a while back, was over the summer, and this popped up on my Instagram.
How to sound like the Beach Boys. Step 1, dress like the Beach Boys. Much better. Use the cheapest, most beat-up mic you have for the lead vocal. When the day is new. Double that. Day is new. Use the nicest mic you have for all the background vocals. Wop, wop. Double those. Don't tune anything. Run it all through some plate reverb. Wouldn't it be nice if... And this is what you get. Wouldn't it be nice if we could wake up in the morning when the day is new, and after having spent the day together, hold each other close the whole night through.
Now, that's not AI. That's actually you, and that is incredible.
Thank you. Is
that you on all the instruments as well?
No, that's actually just the Beach Boys instrumental track, which I found. There's a company from Israel that does all these sound-alikes of classic songs for an app they're developing, and they had hired me to sing like 60 plus classic rock songs, and Wouldn't It Be Nice was one of them. So I thought to just make a dumb little video explaining how I did it.
Well, it came out great, and the way you layered the harmonies is amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Years ago, I got a chance to meet Carl Wilson, and I asked him about the Beach Boys harmonies because I was always mesmerized by them. And what he told me was the trick that they used was to put the melody all the way up on the top and then put the harmonies below, as opposed to a standard pop song where it's the melody and the third and the fifth going above it, and sometimes doing something below. But he said that was the trick that we used.
Yeah, it kind of like sticks out like that. Wouldn't it be nice? It's way up on top. There is towards the end of the song, there's the woo, that kind of thing. But yeah, like most of the time, that's true. I hadn't actually even thought about that.
Well, I was watching some of the stuff that you've done, and this was another one that popped up that I just thought was amazing. It wasn't until the end that I realized it's not the Beach Boys. And I was watching the video of you doing it, but there was one little thing at the end. And I thought, wow, that was really incredible. Now that's you on.
I played guitars and sang it. I did the vocals.
What was it about the Beach Boys, Chris, that captured your imagination?
Oh gosh. I mean, as a singer, like, okay, so I grew up in a home with a bunch of singers. My grandpa was in barbershop quartets growing up. And so I've always gravitated towards harmony. So that's one thing. I'm a pretty optimistic guy, and their music has got this like kind of like reckless optimism a bit. Like it's this like hope, it's this longing in all of their music. They don't really have like a dark song. There's a few like more like achy songs in there, but like everything has this longing that I've kind of gravitate towards. And then just like it's fun and musical. It's really, really musical, as opposed to some pop songs that are just pretty like monotone. And yeah,
I think I'm going to know the answer to this, but what's your favorite Beach Boys period?
Oh, probably 65 to 70, 71.
70 and 71 for me. Surf's Up,
Yeah. Oh,
Holland, that
oh
sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. A Sunflower is an incredible record. It's got some cheese in there, but like, uh, what's the song? I mean, Forever is great. Deirdre is great. The one that's like, it's almost like an emo song. Gosh, what's it called? I'm forgetting now. I'll remember in a few minutes, but yeah.
Chris
It's
Cron's my guest this morning here at 105.5 WDHA on All Mixed Up. And the Beach Boys are going to be a featured topic of sorts. Although you've done a lot of other things as well, including singing on a bunch of TV stuff and jingles too, right?
Yeah, I've done that's the crazy thing we talked earlier before the interview about the craziness of the internet and the power of technology and the fact that I can sit in my bedroom in Spring Hill, Tennessee and sing on Sapporo commercials in Japan and sing on stuff in Israel and Swedish house DJs having me sing top lines on dance tracks and like all sorts of stuff. I did a song for the Georgia State Lottery. Yeah, it's pretty wild what it's enabled me to be able to do.
But you quit music for quite a while. What was the impetus behind that?
I had been in a band for 12 years. We were on Warner Brothers and did all the US touring. We had a song go to #1 in Japan, and #3 in the Netherlands, and kind of do well all over Europe. And when my wife and I moved out to Nashville, I kind of lost track of who I was and what I was doing and why I was doing music. And I didn't know anything else other than to just hang it up for a while, not even knowing if it was going to come back. And I just kind of made it this like obsession in my life. And I never want to, I don't think that's ever a healthy thing to like obsess about something. Having passion is one thing, but like when something controls you, like music was for me, I needed to stop for a while.
Interesting that it took the move to Nashville for that to happen, because
I
there's
know,
so
right?
much music
City.
in Nashville. I mean, we were talking before we came on the air. Broadway is just one music bar after another, with bands on all like 3 and 4 levels. It's crazy how much music there is down there.
It is. I've kind of come to the realization that like, I mean, it's the same in LA and London, where music kind of becomes a commodity. It becomes a product rather than an art form. And there's nothing wrong with selling your music, but I feel like in Nashville, there's technically amazing players and amazing music comes out of here, but it's a little bit more like assembly line here in Nashville, whereas in LA it's a little bit more like we're gonna search for it. We'll get the hits, but we're gonna kind of like take more risks. And I guess I kind of gravitate a little bit more towards that. But that's probably because I grew up there for 30 years. But I mean, all that to say, yeah, like Nashville is an amazing town with amazing opportunities for me as a musician.
Taylor Swift, speaking of Nashville, of course, she's had some success there. It is everywhere these days. She was recently here in New Jersey for some football activity. And I think they showed her 17 times the other night on NBC, and the ratings skyrocketed and what have you. So you took a Beach Boys song, and Ryan Adams did an entire album of Taylor's, 1989. And what if the Beach Boys did or had written Shake It Off?
But I keep cruising, can't stop, won't stop moving. It's like I got this music in my mind saying it's gonna be alright. Shake, 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 play, 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 play. Shake, 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 hey, shake, 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 shake it off, shake it off.
A ba 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 ba.
Yep, absolutely. Sometimes you hear something and you go like, these two things go together so well. Like I just need to do it. And it was like, I thought of it one morning and ran up to my studio and recorded it and ran out to the deck and threw a couple shirts on and did a little video. It was like, it all happened in like 2 hours.
Well, speaking of things inspiring, every so often I do this thing on the radio called Hey, That Reminds Me, where I'll take a song and I'll hear a lyric or I'll hear a line and it sounds like maybe it's in the same key or whatever. And you did that with Stand By Me and Every Breath You Take. And I don't have that audio here, but that was really incredible. I had never put those two songs together before.
Yeah, I don't know if one of them came on or again, I don't know how my mind works. It's a crazy jumbled up place, but yeah, they just like they have the same chord progression. Dun, 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 dun. And so I like mashed them up in real time. And yeah, I thought it came out cool.
It did. It came out very cool.
Thanks.
We're talking to Chris Cron this morning here at 105.5 WDHA. And I mentioned playing something of yours last week, and it was inspired in part by a post that you had put up. And like you, I am fascinated by this, and I don't know if terrified is the right word, but I'm going to play this for listeners who didn't hear it last week. I'm not going to tell you who it is or what it is. Just give this a listen. You'll know the song right away.
And I think I'm going out of my head, 'cause I can't explain the tears that I shed over you, over you. I see you each morning, but you just walk past me. You don't even know that I exist. Going out of my head, over you. Out of my head, over you. Out of my head, day and night, night and day and night.
Now you're saying to yourself, I didn't know the Beach Boys did a little Anthony in the Imperial Song, and it's not the Beach Boys, and it's not even Chris Cron doing one of his incredible recreations, if you will. That is an AI version, and like it's fascinating. It's a little daunting as well. What are your thoughts on this whole thing, Chris?
So I probably jumped the gun in posting it because I went back on the YouTube channel that I found it on. Day Limbs, Daelims is the guy that put it up. And he did a whole like hour-and-a-half long video explaining how he did it. And you can tell from an hour-and-a-half long video that there's a lot more into it than just hitting a button, because that would have taken a minute to explain. What he did was he took another Beach Boys song. I'm trying to remember what it was off the top of my head, but he took the instrumental track and used an AI program to separate out all the parts. So the drums and the piano, the guitars, bass, all that stuff. It's able to isolate each of those parts. Don't ask me how it does it. But it does. And then he put those all into a recording program and chopped them up and placed them in time, repitched things, it basically took a bunch of samples and repurposed them into this song, Going Out of My Head, which is incredible. And he's got to be very, very musical to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
So he's programming using samples from another Beach Boys song. So it's got that like sound and that tape saturation kind of thing going on already. And then he actually sang all of the parts and then ran those through a AI algorithm that then put Brian's voice on in the verses and then Al Jardine's voice in the Going Out of My Head. That's like an Al Jardine part right there. But I think for me, like my first reaction to it was, oh, I wish I had done this. This is so good. like it feels like it existed for 50 years already, you know.
Right.
It feels like something that I would have heard and that they would have written even. So on one hand, I'm like super pumped about it because it is bringing into existence something that never was, and maybe that's a bad thing, but as a Beach Boys fan, like it makes me excited. The part that I get kind of reticent about is what happens if AI can just start generating new songs out of nothing. Not out of nothing. It's obviously a lot of input that it has to get. But I think that's where we're headed, to where, like, what happens if Spotify just uses this algorithm to generate content and then doesn't have to pay anybody? That's what scares me as a songwriter and as a creator. Like, I'm not fully convinced that the population is going to care if it's not a human being. If it makes them feel something and if it makes them want to dance, they're gonna buy it. I don't know. Maybe that's pessimistic of me from a reckless optimist over here, but I'm hesitant about that. I think AI as a tool, again, can be great. As an assistance, it's great. But when it takes over and completely replaces human involvement, then that's where I say no.
I think I tend to agree with you on that. I know the musicians who recorded those tracks originally, all session guys of the infamous Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
You know, those guys, you know, they weren't going to get any extra money anyway because they get paid by the session. And so there's no residuals there. But the other end of it, that's a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what's going to have to come into play is some forms of legislation to protect copyright holders. And I mean, because he, you know, love it or hate it, like, he used existing material to create something new, which is what people in hip hop have done for years with sampling, and that's great. That's totally a legit art form. But I think there needs to be something in place to protect that. I also think that this is uncharted territory, but that we're probably going to see voices being copywritten, like a tone and a timbre that is uniquely mine and that's uniquely yours will eventually be something that will be copyrightable. And that then if they like use it without your permission or use it without your, you know, getting royalties for it, that there could be lawsuits down the road.
There were a few eyebrows who were raised a couple of weeks ago when the Rolling Stones just released their new single, Angry. And it was revealed that at one point there's a little bit of auto-tune going on with Mick Jagger's vocals. And you really, really, really have to listen carefully to get it. And it's only in one small part. And I think someone, I forget who it was, Chris, but someone said, you know, if you're in the studio and you get the right take, it's exactly what you want, but there's that one note that just needs to be tweaked.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? You know, we're not talking Cher.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. And even the Cher thing, like that was, I think, an artistic choice because it's obvious that it's like robotic. It's very, very, you know, I don't know. There was a time when I was a purist and, you know, hated on that stuff, but I've come to full circle to where it's like a recording is all illusion anyways. It's like drums don't sound like that in person. You know, they like where like a kick drum and a snare drum are super, super punchy and right in your face. And like that's something that's engineered and created to feel that way. It's all like, most recordings now are like not bands playing live together in a room, but that doesn't mean that they're bad or that they don't like still. It's just it's a way of capturing a sound in a sonic way that you want, and then you can recreate that live. I think like, sure, I think autotune can be a crutch, and like, you know, there are plenty of quote unquote singers who have used autotune to mask the fact that they aren't actually singers. But at the end of the day, I think a recording is a different thing than a live representation of a song.
And if you want to go back to the 50s and 60s, you take some of those pop idols who really weren't good singers. There's a reason their vocals were doubled.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Yeah. I mean, even the Beach Boys stuff, like they doubled their voices on almost everything, because it helped mask the rub of like 5 or 6 guys singing in a room not perfectly in pitch together. You know, it like widens that a bit. There was a band that I love, this band called Doves from the UK, and they, on one of their records called Kingdom of Rest, they like intentionally didn't tune things as closely as they normally would. Like guitars are slightly out and pianos and synthesizers, because it actually, when you tune everything perfectly, it becomes smaller. When you let things like spread a little bit, it becomes wider. That's why like all of these older records where nothing is perfectly in A440, it like has this width to it that you just don't get if you tune everything perfectly.
So we've talked a lot about the Beach Boys and other things, obviously. What are you doing musically these days? Your own, Chris?
I am working on a solo record, which is, it's not a Beach Boys thing. I actually do have a Beach Boys EP, which is maybe turned into an album, of just, you know, covers and originals and things. So that will be coming out soon, as soon as I can get it done. And then my solo record I'm going to put out next year. It's more piano based. I'm a piano player and a songwriter, and it's more modern sounding, more modern poppy kind of thing, but like it definitely harkens back to like my love of 60s, 70s songwriters. So yeah, those two things right now.
And for WDHA listeners who want to learn more about you, where do they go?
Instagram, that's the best place right now.
That's where I found you.
Yeah, at Chris Cron Music. And if you need to know how to spell Cron, it's like corn with the O and the R flipped.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed this, talking with you this morning.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for having me.